Next, we are moving on to our final bill for the day. I have got House File 3322, Representative Franson. I just saw her here. We will give her a second. And I see we have a co-presenter here, also Representative Hansen. This is another, looks like another bipartisan bill coming before us here. So we will give a second to have Representative Franson join us. So we'll take about a minute or so break as we hunt her down.
I think Representative Gottfried should have provided agates.
Oh, that's right. Sample agates would have been nice. Representative Franson, welcome to the committee. Thank you for being here today.
I'm sure you're all joyed.
I'm looking forward to it. I will move House File 3322 before the committee. I do know that we have an author's amendment, so I will move the DE2 amendment to get the bill in the shape the author wants. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion prevails. The DE2 amendment is adopted. Representative Franson, to your bill, and I see you also have Representative Hansen with you. So Go ahead and start off.
Thank you. Today is a historic day. We have a Franson-Hansen bill. So good afternoon, Chair Fisher, Chair Heintzman, and members of this committee. And you're probably wondering why I'd author a bill like this. Well, I'm the co-chair of capital investment, and for the past number of years, I have heard countless stories on the aging water infrastructure needs across the state. And as I'll discuss, the bonding bill may no longer be the right place. Well, it is the right place to do it. We just don't have the funds to continue reaching the need across the state, right? Minnesota faces an estimated $12 billion in water infrastructure needs over the next 20 years to replace aging 50 to 100-year-old wastewater, stormwater, and drinking water systems. These are investments that allow communities all throughout the state to upgrade treatment plants, clean up existing contaminants such as PFAS, prepare for severe weather events, fix inflow and infiltration, and repair drinking water systems that are at or near capacity and are often near the end of their useful life. Just last week, we held a hearing in capital investment, informational only, on the PFAS issue. And this lady came in from Michigan to talk about it, and it was really eye-opening. I think we can all agree that there is no safe level of lead in drinking water, and we are committed to removing lead service lines in every community across the state. Now, in the past 5 years, we have passed only 2 bonding bills. We are not saving taxpayers any money by not having bonding bills. Instead, these projects are getting more expensive, more costly, and at times, if they are not funded by bonding dollars through the state, these projects end up on the taxpayer through increased rates or higher property taxes, and that directly affects a family budget. Members, the needs are too great, too urgent, and too important to solve through bonding alone. Let me reiterate, this is not in place of a bonding bill. This would supplant a bonding bill. We need new dedicated revenue sources to fix water infrastructure, and House File 3322 is one way to do that. All Minnesotans should have access to clean, safe drinking water. This is the land of 10,000 states, 10,000 lakes plus. I hope this bill starts a conversation that will resonate with your local governments, and we can work towards predictable water improvements across the state. Currently, in GOP projects alone, and I have a list here, 3.5 pages worth of projects sitting at the PFA currently. And that dollar amount is $829,022,148. That's just the loan in PFA requests from Republican members. Our bonding bill last year, for comparison's sake, was $719 million. And of course, only a fraction of that went to PFA. And after much consideration, the original bill had the MPCA as the placeholder for the funds. I thought after hearing from members and from stakeholders, we felt that the PFA was better suited for such a program, and they are highly trusted within the communities as well as members alike, and I trust the PFA will do the work that is needed to do. With that.
Thank you, Representative Franson. Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I know this may seem like an odd pairing here, but I agree with Representative Franson. We have been on the bonding committee and toured around, and the demands are extremely high in terms of the cost. And we will not be able to bond our way out of this in terms of water infrastructure. I think many people in the room can remember a time before ubiquitous plastic bottles. I can remember going back and getting returnable bottles and 7-Up and other things over the years. So, I mean, do we have to have the world we're in right now? You know, consumer demand has changed things, but we don't see the cost of the true cost of the pollution. And it shows up as microplastics in our water. It shows up as microplastics in us. And those costs are there that we didn't anticipate before with the ubiquitous use of plastic bottles. Now you're going to hear today this is unfair, it's costly, it's inflationary. We've heard all of those things for years. We've had multiple bills as long as I've been here and probably 20 years before that. After Iowa did a deposit bill, you know, on cans and bottles, they've had that for a long time. This isn't a deposit bill. This is a tax or a fee, and I know that may give heartburn to some people, but it's a dedicated one that would go towards water infrastructure. And we need that revenue stream that could potentially do appropriation bonds as well to extend it to get the water situation in. I think a couple other things to consider is on balance, looking at inflow infiltration in addition to the PFA so that we make sure that we've got complete coverage for all the water needs. But as Representative Franson said, we're at a start here. I think there's going to be discussion in other committees as well. So we're asking for your support as we start this conversation to move forward. And we do need to do something. We have in it, and when times are particularly tight, we need to make those investments to be upgrading our drinking water, our lead service lines, our overall water infrastructure, not only for residential, but for business. We have to have that water quality to attract business. So the fee is there that pays for part of that cost.
Representative Franson.
And members, water infrastructure is critical. Bonding bills are not predictable. As I said, in the last 5 years, we've had 2 bonding bills, and those project increase have only become more astronomical. And so we're here to start an important conversation about a dedicated funding source, and whether it's this mechanism or something else. But that conversation must be made because our communities can't wait any longer.
Awesome, thank you. And with that, we will go to our testifiers. First testifier I have is Chad Kolstad, who is online. Chad, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and then we have 2 minutes for your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Co-Chair Heisman, committee members. My name is Chad Kolstad. I am the Infrastructure Unit Supervisor at the Minnesota Department of Health, and I'm a licensed engineer in Minnesota. Today, I will be testifying on behalf of the Public Facilities Authority. As you know, our drinking water and wastewater infrastructure is aging, and the cost of replacing and updating the infrastructure continues to grow. We currently have $4.3 billion in wastewater and stormwater projects on our Clean Water State Revolving Fund project priority list, which is almost a 200% increase since 2021. Of that, $840 million of those costs are to address more stringent wastewater discharge limits needed to protect our waters of the state. On the drinking water infrastructure side, we currently have $3.6 billion in projects on the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund project priority list, which amounts to a 300% increase since 2021. $585 million of those costs are for projects needed to address emerging contaminants like manganese and PFAS, and $600 million of those costs are needed to start assisting communities with the replacement of lead service lines. As the need for water infrastructure continues to grow, we need to start thinking of creative ways to maintain our essential water infrastructure. This bill is a start of that creative thinking and would provide a reliable and consistent funding source for water infrastructure in Minnesota. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I would be happy to take questions at the end.
Okay.
Thank you, sir, for your testimony. Next, I have Danny Locke, who is also online. Danny, welcome to the committee. If you'd like to introduce yourself, who you're with, and you have 2 minutes for your testimony, please.
Thank you, Chair Fisher, Chair Heintzman, and members of the committee. My name is Danny Locke, and I serve as the Finance Manager for Brainerd Public Utilities in Brainerd, Minnesota. I want to thank you for the opportunity to comment today. Brainerd Public Utilities provides water, wastewater, and electric service to the city of Brainerd and its surrounding areas. In my role, I work regularly with the Minnesota PFA programs and see firsthand how important this consistent funding is for our communities in planning this major infrastructure investments. Over the coming years, our community faces several of these significant projects necessary to maintain safe and reliable water and wastewater systems. On our drinking water side, we anticipate the need for a new water treatment plant, estimated at about $51 million, a new municipal well estimated at $7.5 million, and the lead service line replacements projected between $22 and $25 million to meet the federal and state requirements. While we appreciate the funding PFA has administered so far, Brainerd still has more than 1,000 service lines requiring replacement remaining, and without continued support, replacement is just not feasible. On our wastewater side, we anticipate approximately $42 million in near-term investments at the wastewater treatment plant and about $8 million in a lift station upgrade. And then depending on future regulatory requirements, additional treatment investments could range from 70 to 90 million in additional to these numbers. Projects of this scale are only feasible with access to PFA's low interest loan and grant programs. These programs allow communities to move forward with essential infrastructure while managing the impact on our local ratepayers. Brainerd is not unique. As mentioned earlier, communities across Minnesota are facing rising infrastructure costs, with PFA's estimated needs indicating at least $12 billion over the next 20 years. This consistent and predictable funding for PFA programs is critical for planning for our communities and trying to maintain this essential infrastructure. I want to thank you for the opportunity to testify today, and I can answer any questions at the end.
Okay. Thank you for your testimony. Next, I have Richard Rowland.
Here, Chair.
Very good. There you are. You moved up quick. Thank you. Please go ahead and introduce yourself and begin your testimony. You have 2 minutes, please.
Chair and members of the committee, my name is Richard Rowland. I am the Deputy Director at St. Paul Regional Water Services. St. Paul Regional Water Services provides drinking water to more than 450,000 residents across St. Paul and 13 of our surrounding cities. Our system includes more than 1,200 miles of water main, a treatment facility, reservoirs, pumping stations, much which is decades old. Our overall capital needs are significant. Like many utilities across the country, we are managing aging infrastructure while investing in modern treatment standards, resiliency, and long-term reliability. Since 2019, our water rates have increased more than 50% to support critical infrastructure investments, including construction of a new water treatment plant and ongoing system improvements. We have asked our ratepayers to step up, and they have. But rate increases alone cannot meet the scale of the infrastructure challenge that we face. During the same time frame, we have responded to a public health need by building a great program to aggressively replace all lead service lines, thanks to federal and state funding commitments. We are very thankful for the past funding. By the end of 2026, we have successfully replaced more than 6,200 lead service lines. However, more than 18,000 lead lines still remain in our system, and without additional funding, we will not be able to continue this critical work. The good news is that the lead replacement program works. It's created jobs within our utility, the contractor community, and has contributed to a healthier city. Bid prices are down by 50% since we kicked off our lead-free program in 2023. Stability and maintaining partnerships with our contractor community is key. We cannot start over. Continued partnership with the state of Minnesota is critical to ensure that lead replacements do not stall. While we are second only to Minneapolis in the number of lead service lines remaining, I want to stress that this is just not a St. Paul issue. St. Paul Regional Water Services remaining lead lines represent roughly 15% of the statewide need. This is a Minnesota-wide public health challenge that requires sustained and statewide investment. We respectfully ask for continued capital investment partnership from the state of Minnesota so we can complete this important work underway and ensure safe, reliable drinking water for communities, families, and businesses that we serve. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, I have Tim Wilkin.
Opposition.
Welcome to the committee. If you could please introduce yourself, who you're with, and begin your testimony. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Fisher and Chair Heinzman and committee members. I'm Tim Wilkin. I represent the Minnesota Beverage Association. They're the local makers and distributors of non-alcoholic beverages, and they are predominantly family-owned businesses. I also want to welcome our members who are here today. They're fittingly for our Day on the Hill. We strongly oppose this tax, which unfairly and it's poor targeting and counterproductive in a year where we're focused on affordability. The bill is actually a double tax because most of our products are already paying the sales tax. So you're just adding that on top of it. For water in particular, it's a 56% tax if you go out and buy a 32 pack at your local retailer. So it's a huge tax, 56%. This is, we are the wrong target. While the bill is aimed at, to raise money to treat water for PFAS, our bottles don't contain PFAS, and they never have. Taxing innocent products while letting actual polluters, those who manufactured and released PFAS, escape accountability violates the fundamental polluter pays principle that should guide environmental policy. This misdirection is especially ironic and harmful, as the capital investment hearing last week on PFAS pointed out. The main testifier, when it came to her own well, which was contaminated by PFAS, she turned to bottled water. So when you're looking at taxing the very solution to people who are struggling with PFAS contamination, this is hitting them twice. We're an industry that takes responsibility. A couple years ago, we were here supporting the new EPR law and making sure that it was well-designed and will help bring back additional materials because we want to make new bottles out of our old bottles. Our containers are fully recyclable, and our members have invested hundreds of millions of dollars nationwide in recycling infrastructure, including a very recent investment here at Eureka Recycling. Our bottles are made to be remade, and they're made by our Teamster employees right here in St. Paul, just a few miles from the Capitol here. So we urge you to oppose the bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, I have Mr. Will Hagan. Welcome to the committee. Thank you for being here. Please introduce yourself, and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Co-chairs Fisher and Heinzman and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name's Will Hagan, and I'm the Vice President at Minnesota Retailers. Our members range from small independent stores to regional chains and national retailers, serving customers in communities across the state. Let me begin by saying we appreciate the goal of this bill and want to thank Representative Franzen for advancing investments in water infrastructure, an important priority. Retailers live and operate in the same communities as our customers, and improving and protecting Minnesota's water resources and our infrastructure is something we all value. Where we have concern is with the proposed funding mechanism, the plastic bottled excise tax. As you've heard, HF 3322 creates a new excise tax on many plastic beverages sold to retailers in Minnesota. While the tax is structured at the distributor level, the economic reality is that those costs do not stay there. In a competitive supply chain, new costs introduced upstream inevitably move downstream. That means the tax will ultimately show up in the price consumers pay at the shelf. Retail operates on tight margins and intense price competition. Stores generally cannot absorb new costs like this, which means they're passed along to customers. At a time when many Minnesota families are already focused on affordability, this type of policy will increase the cost of everyday beverage products. We support the environmental goals behind this bill and the need to invest in water infrastructure, but we believe there must be a better way to fund these efforts without increasing costs for Minnesota consumers. Minnesota retailers would welcome the opportunity to work with the author and the committee to explore alternative funding mechanisms that accomplish the same goals while minimizing impacts on affordability. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to testify for or against the bill? Not seeing any. Next, I'll move on to questions or comments from members. Representative Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'll just say briefly that I think it's great that we're working and identifying issues with our water in a bipartisan manner. Thank you to all of the members around the committee who have signed on to my bill to replace lead service lines in the Minnesota bonding bill. And it's probably it's the most expensive bill I'm carrying this year. It's $250 million, but it won't address all of the lead service line needs in Minnesota. It won't. We need more money than that. And I wish we didn't, but that is the scale of the problem, and that's because lead is a powerful neurotoxin. And I guess I would like to ask either Representative Franzen or Representative Hansen if there is any safe amount of exposure to lead, first of all, Mr. Chair.
Representative Hansen.
Mr. Chair and Representative Jordan, none.
Representative Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Hansen is correct. There no amount of exposure to lead is safe, but yet lead service lines are the #1 way that Minnesotans come into contact with lead through their drinking water supply. And so the more we can do for this, the better. And so I think it's really great that we're identifying this as a need. I will also just say that plastic is contaminating our water. Microplastics are an emerging concern. They're an emerging contaminant. And everywhere we test for microplastics, we find them. They're found in the bodies of earthworms, deep in the boundary waters, wilderness area canoe, the BWCA, we all know what it stands for. Maybe I could ask Representative Falconer what exactly that acronym. But we also find microplastics in breast milk, in sperm, in our blood, in our brains. The latest research I've seen is that every American has a teaspoon worth of microplastics in their brain at this moment. So, and that's having detriments to our health. They're finding it in newborn babies. And so I think it's great that we are looking at our water infrastructure, and I just want to thank both of you for bringing this bill together. It will have an effect on human health, and I think it's a creative way to look at how we can establish this. And I guess I would just have one final question for Chair Franzen, as a bonding committee chair. Can we have a day to talk about lead service lines in the bonding committee?
Representative Franzen.
Well, I'm sure that could come up one of these times.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Franzen. Next, I have Representative Finke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, representatives, for your bill. I echo everything Representative Jordan said. I appreciate this and the work we're doing on protecting water. I know in the DE, we took out the 10-cent tax, and we heard a lot about how much cost there is. So I'm just curious if either of you, or maybe Mr. Kolstad from the PFA, want to talk about, you know, how much money are we going to make from this? It's hard to know. We've got 4 years in the program. What should we set this rate at? What kind of return is there going to be?
Representative Franzen.
Sure, thank you for that question. And I had heard from members that 10 cents, and from, from outside people, that 10 cents might be a hard pill to swallow, right? I don't have anything from nonpartisan letting us know what that revenue would raise, but artificial intelligence at 10 cents, this is just from artificial intelligence filtering out things in its own way, roughly $215 million a year. That's at 10 cents.
Representative Finke.
And it's a rough whatever, so.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Representative Franzen. Yes, I can take that as the ballpark. It sounds like real money. It sounds like something that, even if it's a little less than 10 cents, worth it. And I just want to echo, again, what Representative Jordan said about, lead is one of the problems that we have, but it's very hard to hear the plastic bottle beverage industry refer to those as innocent products, given what we know about the plastic bottle world, the world that we're living in, the pollution that we're dealing with. We need to really take this seriously, so I appreciate what you're doing.
Okay. Representative Franzen.
Yes, thank you, Chair Fisher. I just want members to know this is not an attack. I am not attacking plastic. I am just looking at a creative way. Maybe this is not the method for it, but it is to start the conversation of how do we clean up our water? How do we provide clean drinking water to the communities across the state?
Very good. As I look around, Chair Heinzman.
Thank you, Chair Fisher. Members, just a comment. As was described by Chair Franzen, I think we can all agree that this bill is a conversation starter. We know that we have significant needs, infrastructure, specifically relative to PFA. Where this goes, in the coming weeks and months, the bill's being laid over. I would say that there have been really good opportunities just a couple of years back, and I know that we're all getting tired of hearing about what was an $18 billion surplus, but it is what it is. And Republicans are going to work towards solving these kinds of problems without raising taxes. I'll just leave it there.
Thank you, Chair Heinzman. Representative Franson, Representative Hansen, I appreciate you getting the conversation started. It's weird, I will have to say, that we've got both of you up here collaborating on a bill, but it goes to show to me that there's a strong interest across party lines to address the infrastructure problem that we have out there, particularly in the water world, and try and find sustainable ways to make sure that we're finding the revenue going forward. I appreciate the dedication to try to figure out how do we address the lead lines, how do we figure out wastewater, how do we take care of our aging water distribution systems that are out there. So I appreciate getting the conversation started. And with that, are there any final comments? Representative Franson, Representative Hansen will start.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. We are creative people, and we're given this great opportunity to be here representing each of our districts. And I think we have the opportunity here, so much in the last few days, I've heard people say, well, we're not going to get anything done, we're not going to get anything done. I think we actually should take the opportunity to be creative and try to find our way through this. And that I'm hopeful that we can get something done. And maybe that means everybody gives a little bit and has some ideas. So I know at least we're open to, hearing folks' ideas, any suggestions you have, and find a way that we can not only find the path, but actually achieve the goal here to get something passed so we can start addressing this, because we've all been through this where we haven't got a bill, or we get a bonding bill that may not have local projects in it. So disappointment, I think we all know disappointment. So I think we should be hopeful that we could achieve something, and I think we can.
Very good. Representative Franson.
As I look at just the Republican list of the projects that are currently sitting in PFA, I think these are all bills that have been introduced in the last year or last 2 years. Some of these, some of these cities, there's just absolutely no way that they can afford it on their own without water rates going up or property taxes being raised exponentially. And a lot of these towns are lower income cities. So it pains me that we have so many lakes in this area, but we have our citizens of the great state drinking unsafe water.
Thank you, Representative Hansen, Representative Franson, for the bill. Thank you for the co-presentation. It's great to see both sides working together. With that, I renew my motion that House File 3322 as amended be laid over. The bill is laid over.